What's up, everybody? Big Herc, getting down fresh out. You tune into another edition of Prison Talk. You know, we like to keep you guys laced up on the intricacies of this damn prison system because there's a lot of misinformation being put out there. And I have with me today Jesse, who's gonna kind of give you some insight on some serious topics that have been brought up through some of you guys' questions. Um, Jesse, man, what was it like going into prison with your charges? Having to deal with that type of environment, knowing what you were looking at.
For instance, I don't know if everybody knows, but I had a murder kidnap.
Okay.
So, and then I was found not guilty of the murder, but still to have that on your rap sheet, going into that environment, and then having the aggravated kidnap and just having a life sentence period going in that scenario. You already start off, you go to your points level, and you know how the points graduate and stuff like that. So, you go to your reception yards, and then you get pointed, and then you get shipped off to the yards. And I think going in that environment, I got looks, you get certain things, but really all it is where are you from? A guy comes to you, like, where are you from? What clique? All right, so if you're from San Fernando, you're gonna go hit your San Fernando clique, you know what I mean? Regardless, and we kind of touch bases on that stuff. So you go in that, but not necessarily to the to that gravitation of like, it wasn't, you see the violence, you know what I mean? And you know what's gonna happen before anything happens and stuff like that. So not necessarily, you don't have to, like, you have to participate in certain things, but not necessarily where you have to participate where it's like, that you want to hit somebody, go ahead, raise your hand, hit somebody. You know what I mean? Be that guy. If you want to, if somebody's car was that pulled, if something was so negative, people like rape, child molestation, people who get slipped through the cracks for a little bit, hiding through paperwork and stuff like that. When those guys get caught or they get found or whatever, which is shocking, like you even want to go to the yard, period. You know what I mean? Like, that can be happening to you. You have that on mainline, right? And I know there's a lot of politics, there's a lot more stuff that goes on with it too. You know what I mean? There's nothing always forced to be to you unless you put yourself in that environment. If you join a clique, if you want to join that clique, then that's going to happen to you. Those are the things that's going to happen to you. That's what's going to come to you. You know what I mean? You want to be that guy, then go be that guy. More power to you. But if you want to try to walk that straight line, walk that fucking straight line. You can do it. It's going to be tough. And don't tell me it's not easy. You get challenged daily. Yes, you'll learn how to fight. Yes, you can knuckle up. You can, and those situations, like, dude, handle your business in your cell. You know what I mean? And sometimes the things happen in chow halls. Sometimes things happen when you're at work. Some things happen. And a lot of times, cops will turn blind eyes to certain things. If you know if it's a one-on-one, let them handle their business. Get it over with. Done. All right, we don't want to write paperwork anyways. But when shit starts happening, riots and stuff like that, the gravitation of what a riot can happen.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? And so when you have, there's 1,300 people in a small yard where it's not even supposed to be 1,300 male, and then you deal with everybody's ego, including yourself. So it's like, just try to keep yourself in check. That's one thing I think, like, in that environment that helped me, like, trying to keep myself in check. Don't raise your freaking hand. Don't be that person. Just keep your head grinding, keep yourself grinding, just a constant thinking, just like, okay, keep going. And on the other side of things, like, I'll talk freely about it, and, some people will call me a bitch or, whatever, they can say whatever they want, but when the movie came out, we were deemed no good. We were deemed a liability, so we were stripped from that and stuck into SMY yards where now we had to deal with all a whole different other side of shit. You know what I mean? The weirdos and the shit that you never had to, like, the dudes that you removed people.
Exactly.
And so then you see these dudes and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to fucking fight again with these dudes. And then there's a whole different politic game over there. Then there's new gangs that pop up.
Yeah, created from within.
Created from within.
Yeah.
And it's like, these kids are getting validated these days now because the gangs are getting so, it's getting organized, and you have all this weird shit. And it was the weirdest thing because I felt I was stripped of something of my own ego, basically, like something was wounded, like I was a wounded you know, I was like, oh my God, I'm on a fucking shitty fucking yard like this. What the fuck? Like, oh my God, like, you know, Wes was talking about, you know, he doesn't want to be, you know, a certain person. He'll never go out that way, you know. And it was like, fuck, dude. But hey, here I am. You know what I mean? I didn't want to go out that way, but fucking happened to me. You know what I mean? And it was the worst. It sucks, dude. It sucks, right? I mean, because you think you're supposed to be somewhere, and then it's a blessing in disguise when you take it. Maybe I wouldn't be home if it wasn't for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the hardest things, and sitting here talking about it right now, openly. You know what I mean? I'm being as transparent as I possibly can.
No, but I think people need to hear that because, like I said, there's everybody who's on the street, you know, they hear all this stuff, but they're not in prison. They're just,
right.
You know, oh man, this and that, blah, 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 blah. But the reality of it is like, you know, dude, like you said, you're home now.
Yeah.
We don't know where you'd be at if, you know, if situations would have went differently. We don't know. You know
right.
what I mean?
And the thing is, and like I've stated before too, it's like, I would not be living Nick's life properly then. You know what I mean? Then I would have been just a piece of shit. Just, you know, and don't take that wrong. If you know, people who have life sentences and they're doing their thing and they can't get home, because they screwed up or something like that. I could have been that too. I'm not saying they're a piece of shit or anything like that. What I'm saying is the fact that I would be living Nicholas's life in vain and basically flipping the finger to the family like, I'm still a fuck convict and I'm going to stay this way, and yeah, I should be in prison, and you know, and that's, to me, that's wrong. You know what I mean? That if I want to better myself and change that and make sure that paying respects to that young man, you know, that was murdered and kidnapped, you know, how do I do it? This is the way I do it. You know, try to live my life, try to be positive, try to give back as much as I possibly can, and keep taking my shirt off. You know what I mean? And keep taking it for, like, you know, who needs that? Here, boom. You need to, here, and paint it forward like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So, I think those are, yeah. I mean, because going to prison, remember, you're gonna fight. You know you're gonna have to get tested. You know there's something's gonna come along. Some other person's gonna test you and stuff like that. But do it smart. Do it think about it, man. I mean, like, you know you're gonna knuckle up in a day room. You know, like, why don't you just get you know what I mean? Let's go in the cell.
That's right.
Let's go box in the cell. So it's just one-on-one, let's box in the cell.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will be like, oh, I don't do that. I just get off right then and there. Well, okay, yeah, I understand that, because it has to happen that way. You know what I mean? You know, riots, yes. You know, you're kind of giving heads up. Everybody knows that. Like,
exactly.
Everybody knows.
Down. Yeah.
You know when shit's gonna pop off. You know who's gonna get hit. The thing is like, the smarter thing is like, if you're gonna have to hit somebody, and this is, and I don't want to be putting up game on anybody, but the person who's calling the hit, between you and that person would be the only people who should know who's doing the hit. You don't need to know Joe Schmo, Joe Bob over here who's going to be like, hey, da-da-da-da-da. Just know, be like, hey, it'll be taken care of in 3 days, or whatever days you need to take care of. It'll happen. You know what I mean? Don't need to know when, but it's going to happen.
And that's the thing too, is like, so, when you talk about like actual serious violence happening like that, there's no gossip. I remember, like, I used to see dudes coming there and he's like hurt. I was like, all right, I'll just leave. You know what I mean? Because, like, dude, it's not my business. You know what I mean? It's not your business. And you don't even want to hear what we're talking about.
No.
You know what I mean?
That's the whole point. That's where the question
That's
where we're stemming from. It's like, I never wanted to put myself in that situation.
Yeah.
So I was smart enough to go, okay, if I saw homies coming up, cool, bro, all right, catch you guys on the flip. Boop, go bust off some pull-ups. Go to the yard. You know what I mean? Whatever yard I was able, you know what I mean? To be able to maintain that. You know what I mean? Go out for an hour or whatever, you know, and go to day room.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you want to cell time, dude, you know, hey, I'm staying in today.
Yeah.
You know, let me have my cell time, and get out of here. You know, and it was like, and those are things that you learn how to, dodge and weave or whatever. And some people can say like, whatever, dude, it's a crutch, right? It's our way of coping, how to go through a situation, like saying, hey, let me do this. It's not a coward way to do it. It's not those tools or any of that. It's the fact of, I'm going to go home. I have in my head, I'm going to go home. This is my life. I'm going home. You went to freaking law. You know what I mean? You studied law. You did that. You knew that was this is the way I'm escaping. This is how I'm channeling my energy to get that out there. And then so when the movie was made and everything else and all this stuff plays out, you know, and now I'm on a yard, I have to admit, man, I was kind of fucking happy. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's still politics and shit like that, but at the end of the day, like, I'd go to sleep and I was like, man, thank God I don't hear somebody fucking getting stabbed or somebody getting freaking, you know what I mean, getting battery packed or something like that. Worst case scenario, dude, you get some fist fighting going on, you know, and shit like that. You're like, cool, you know, whatever. That's the problem with prison. It builds a callousness towards that violence, you know? And I think out here in society, how to strip that out of you, like that's like something that, you know, like now it's like you can see a dude fist fight, you can turn your back on it, like whatever. Now it's like, but now it's like you almost kind of be like, hey man, knock that shit off, dude. You guys are on fucking public. Yeah. You're like, quit it. Like you go to a bar, I don't know if people, you know.
Well, everybody nowadays wants to pull. I never thought about pulling out a camera. Hey, don't give me a camera.
Right, that's
they're
like,
fighting.
Yeah,
I'm like, fighting, man. I'm not putting the camera.
Yeah, and it's like
it's the last thing I'm thinking about.
But that's what's strange. I mean, that people are anything that can make something, you know, putting themselves out there to do that, you know, and it's just like I don't know. I just don't find I find it kind of hard. I mean, I like on IG. Excuse me. I videotape my bosses because they're all old school guys. You know what I mean? I think it's hilarious. These people, like some of the stuff that comes out of these people's mouths, I'm like, oh my God, dude, this is great. You know what I mean? Like this guy should have his own YouTube channel right here. You know what I mean? And,
classic.
Yeah, it's just classic stuff, and it's just people in the business, man. But yeah, I mean, I hope that helps people to realize about prison somewhat, that you can walk a certain type of way in there. You might get a little bit, I mean, like, unless you did something out with homies out here. So it's like I was never part of a clique, I should say, even outside of here and then going into it. Because, you know, I had a crimey who was, Filipino and Mexican? You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I had another, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like, you know, we grew up in melting pots, you know, the San Fernando Valley, it's a melting pot, you know? It's like, you know, we grew up around all races. We grew up around, you know, so there's nothing harboring any hatred, you know?
Yeah.
And so to be in that environment and you get to see things, and people can tell, man, by the way you just interact with each other, like, hey, bro, you know what I mean? Like, what's cracking? You know? And playing, you know, it's just, you know, playing pinochle against people, you know what I mean? If you want to make it that serious, you're going to make it that serious. You know what I mean? You want to go abide by laws and you want to do that, then go do that. I mean, like, there was a few things that were given. There was 3 laws that were given to me, 4 laws that were given to me in there. It was no homosexuality, don't gamble, don't do drugs, and drink lots of water. You know, because your fucking mouth is shut when you're drinking water. You know, and you know, and it's just like, and you know, those are 3 things that I abide by. 4 things I abide by, and I lived that. I lived that lifestyle, and I survived it. You know, so
there you have it. Big Herc, Prison Talk.